So what are some of the key challenges or obstacles that you faced along the way throughout your career?
One of the challenges, and you learn to navigate it differently, is there weren't a lot of people that looked like me. And so I initially looked, one of the things that I noticed right off the bat is that there weren't really any Black women. There weren't any in my class. And when I started to look for mentors that looked like me, I didn't have access to them, at least not readily. And I also realized that, taking a step back, banking is a white male dominated world. So why am I just looking for a Black woman? Not to say that Black women can't be strong mentors in this industry, but I needed somebody on the other side of the door, what I consider to be on the other side of the door. And so a gentleman by the name of Neil Prendergast took me under his wing and said, Leslie, you are, fearless, and you don't mind, putting yourself out there and doing the work in terms of trying to build a brand for yourself. And you have access and relationships in parts of the city that not everybody feels comfortable. So he took me under his wing and kind of taught me everything he knew about marketing and client acquisition and building relationships. And it stuck with me. And he's still a dear friend of mine to this day. He's one of the reasons why I went to Fifth Third Bank from MBD, because he was at MBD. I left and went to Harris. And then when I went to Fifth Third, he was one of the reasons why I went. But it is a realization that not everybody, your color is your kind. That's something that my godfather taught me. But also, not everybody, not your color, is your enemy. And that's something that I kind of was raised with, because my parents being from the Caribbean, the overarching differentiator was not race, it was class.
Okay. And in terms of finding these strong mentors, how do you go about finding these people? Is it more of them noticing you, or you putting yourself out there? How does that work?
It's a matchmaking exercise. And I am, every time I hear people saying they're going to build a mentorship program, it gives me a little bit angst, because a mentorship is like a friendship. And so people came to me, and Neil came to me, and it was just a really great relationship. But I think it just comes over time. You start to get a sense for, there's got to be a level of trust there. There absolutely has to be a level of respect there. There has to be a willingness to engage and reach back and help and support. All of those things. While you could probably procure a program that has most of them, that special something between the two people is something I don't think you can programatize.
It's very authentic and it's very personal.
Absolutely.
And as a Black female leader in the finance industry, can you discuss any unique challenges or barriers that you've encountered?
There's some that are external to me, and there's some that I put on myself. When I show up and I push back and I'm aggressive, it's not Leslie's a fighter, Leslie's trying to win. It's the angry Black woman, or she's too aggressive. It's always kind of some of the negatives. I remember I had taken a 360, and one of the feedback was I was too competitive. Now, one of my sponsors and mentors was Dave Casper, who said, I love you because you are competitive. So I need you to sometimes take some of this feedback with a grain of salt. The flip side of that was I had a coach that said feedback is a gift, and any strength overdone can be a weakness. And so it was a blessing for me to have both sides of that coin, for me to start to think about how I show up and where does my competitiveness actually turn people off versus energize them, and find the right balance. The other flip side, the thing that I carry myself, is the imposter syndrome. I feel like I do have a sense of always trying to prove that I deserve to be here. And I don't know if I'm just doing that because I feel insecure. I'm trying to prove it to myself as well. So that's something that, one of our interns asked me how I dealt with it. And I say, I keep putting myself out there, and I keep reminding myself of those things that I do really well, and investing in those other things that I don't do well, such that they won't be a handicap for me.
Hmm. Do you feel like maybe one of the roots of your imposter syndrome is maybe that you are so competitive and you always want to, put your best foot forward?
I'm definitely my biggest critic, for sure, for sure. But the imposter syndrome is more, do I deserve to be here? And I remember a long time ago, one of my peers said that I was the affirmative action hire. Now, this person didn't have an advanced degree. This person didn't have the years of lending experience and wins that I had. But that hits deep and it hits hard. And I had to remind myself, like, I came with pedigree. One of the reasons why I went and got my MBA is not because I knew that I needed it to move up in the world. I needed it to be one of those notches on my belt. It just so happened to have been an amazing experience at Kellogg because I went part-time, and I was able to really understand how to leverage the things that I was learning real time. But that imposter syndrome is real. And I don't know if there's ever going to be a pill to fix it, but it's something that I think everybody has to deal with in their own way.
I will say definitely with college admissions changing now and the affirmative action overturn, it's definitely been a hot topic. So that's very interesting that you touch on that. So, yeah. What has been one of the most rewarding aspects of your career? And what are you most proud of?
One of the most rewarding aspects of my career is seeing young people grow and develop and do big things and lead big programs and make a name for themselves. And I could name a handful of folks that have come up under my leadership that have and continue to and will surpass me in terms of what they're able to achieve.
How do you recognize that talent in someone?
I look for folks that are resourceful. I look for people that are relentless. I look for folks that are human. I don't want, it's not arrogance, it's humanness that I think allows us to grow, especially in this business. Banking is less about the technical expertise and more about an ability to listen to someone, understand what their challenges are, bring a solution to the table, and seal the deal. That's a people skill. And folks that can then marry that people skill with strong technical expertise, they're going far. And Marco Quintana and Corliss Garner and a whole host of other folks that continue to make big strides in their career. And I've had what gives me pride and what I consider success these days and what looks like winning for me is seeing more of those names of those individuals coming up, especially those that look like me, coming up behind me and doing really well.
And in the world of commercial banking, you talked about that relentlessness, that perseverance. How does it specifically manifest, in the job?
So on a very basic level, when you're in commercial banking, you have to grow your portfolio. You got to do prospecting. One of the things that I loved about MBD Bank was there was a leader, his name was Mike Kiss. And he had a group called The Force. And it was a cold calling group. And he taught all kind of new folks how to be resilient with no. And one of the things he would always tell us is people say no because you haven't given them a good enough reason to say yes. And so having the door shut in your face and being told to go away and never call back again, you build a thick skin. But you also build an awareness about how you approach the table. One of the things that I noticed between strong performers and people who consider themselves strong salespeople. Strong salespeople sell. Strong performers listen. They relate. They engage. They marry solutions and ideas, and then they bring them to fruition. So it becomes less of a sale and more of a solution and a partnership.
Okay. And then what have some of your key accomplishments been in some of your initiatives as well?
So my first big accomplishment was the Urban Emerging Markets group, where we were able to help BMO, at the time Harris, make some strategic changes to allow us to be competitive in the marketplace, especially the ethnic minority place here in Chicago. And it was an opportunity for me to report to the board of directors on a quarterly basis, and at a very young age. And so that was a huge win for me. When I moved into the treasury and payment sales, it was an opportunity for me to take what had historically been, in some respects, more of a service team, where we were going out, the relationship manager, the banker would go and sell the risk side of the business, and then say, now come in treasury management, and give them an account and give them, all of the services that they needed to move their money within their business. And we never really treated that part of the business as a strategic strength of ours. Well, I took those exact same people and we started to talk differently. We started to treat them like a sales team. And so they started calling on their own. The value that they brought to the table started to shine far sooner than in historical years. And I was able to hand to Oscar Johnson came behind me and continued to grow the business and is doing an amazing job. But I feel proud that I was able to lay a new foundation from which to grow from. When I went into technology, we built out the bank's smart building strategy. That was huge. I knew enough about technology to be dangerous, but I also hired the right people to bring that solution to the table. And so that was huge for us as an organization. And I spent some time with some amazing leaders that I still connect with today. And then in this role, as I think about one client, I remember shortly after I took the job, I was talking to a colleague at another bank, and he was asking me what I was doing. I was like, yeah, I'm doing one client strategies for wealth. We're trying to galvanize the best of BMO and make sure that we can bring it seamlessly to our client base. And he was like, good luck with that. Every bank on the street's been trying to do that. And I was like, well, you watch us. And so seeing the manifestation of what one client can and will be in BMO today, and really what the opportunity lies ahead of us, my team has done an amazing job articulating that vision and bringing it to life. And so that's been a huge accomplishment of mine in this current role.
It seems like a huge continuity that I've been seeing is that you were able to establish a different mindset and really motivate the people that are part of your team. Would you say that's something that you do a lot?
So one of my mentors is Daryl Hackett, who's our CEO. And I remember my first conversation with him about when he's the one that brought me back into BMO, but I was talking to him about a current role of mine. He's like, how's it going? I said, we're at plan. He's like, that's table stakes. How are you going to change the business? What is your legacy in this role? And I started to look at innovation very differently from that point on. It's about leaving, and you always want to leave a role, a place, a space, an environment better than you found it. But when you lead in business with that premise, you actually do leave a legacy that is strong and enduring.
Wow, incredible. And then, in talking about speaking about leaving a legacy, you also seem to be leaving a legacy of civic engagement. You're on the board of a lot of different companies and just organizations. How has that kind of, been a manifestation of your passions?
So both of my parents were in education. My father, when he left Wall Street, he went into education. My mother actually retired as a leader at the Golden Apple Foundation here in Chicago. I clearly understand the difference that education can make in the trajectory of your life and your ability to advocate for a life that's fulfilling. Not saying that going to college is for everybody, but I do think that a post-secondary education is a right for every child. And oftentimes those that don't feel most aligned to that statement look like me. And so in order for this country to be the absolute best of itself, we need everybody playing. We can't leave folks behind. That saying of don't leave any child behind. And so I have spent most of my advocation in the field of education, and most particular about education persistence. So getting to and through college.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And then for some of the specific organizations that you've been involved in, can you name some of those?
Say that question again?
For some of the specific organizations that you've been involved with, can you name some of those and kind of what they're...
One Goal, which is Education Persistence Organization, After School Matters, again, another one that's making sure that kids are prepared to get through high school and enter into college. Hope Chicago, which is a really amazingly different organization that looks at persistence, but not just persistence for the student, but generational persistence. So the organization not only gives scholarships to kids to get through and through college, but if they have a parent that doesn't have a college degree that wants one, that parent is also granted into that scholarship opportunity. And so that is a completely different platform by which to really start to bridge that racial wealth gap. Mm-hmm. I'm also on the board of the Chicago State University Foundation, which again, for me, is Chicago's HBCU. The new president that stepped in really is doing some amazing things about investing in our youth and giving them the resources that they need to get to and through college. I sit on the board of 1871, which looks at entrepreneurship. Again, when I think about wealth creation, a lot of times we're thinking about home ownership. It really is entrepreneurship, being able to pass on a thriving business, or even having a business that provides for your family generationally, I think is critically important. And then when you think about the resources and the roadblocks that get in the way of us, especially people of color, especially women, this was an opportunity. 1871 was an opportunity for me to play a meaningful role in helping to build that gap. And then the last board that, the last two boards that I'm on, one is the Cleveland Avenue Foundation for Education. And one of the amazing parts of that organization is called the 1954 Project. And they are investing $1 million in individuals that are leading nonprofits that are investing in the education of our youth across the country. We think about the Brown versus Board of Education. When integration happened in schools, what also happened is our teachers that were, looking like us, investing in a broad and diverse community, started to wither away from the system. And this is an opportunity for us to bring back a very valuable resource to our youth and to our communities. And then last but not least, one of the things I didn't share with you is in 2020, in the midst of this pandemic, I also got breast cancer. And I didn't know how I got it. And one of the things that I wanted to invest in is an organization that was helping especially women of color, where breast cancer seems to hit the hardest. and where Black women are having higher mortality rates across the country than any other race. This organization called Equal Hope, which is a Chicago-based organization that was born out of Rush Medical Center, and my oncologist, Patricia Robinson, is the board chair, and I felt compelled because of the work that they're doing to join that board as well.
My condolences, and I especially hope that the breast cancer is doing a lot better.
Gone.
Okay, that's great to hear. That's great to hear. How do you find also the time to contribute to so many boards, especially in addition to your career?
A lot of the organizations that so let me be very clear. I'm on far too many boards than I should be. But the organizations that I volunteer, one, it doesn't feel like work. So a lot of these organizations feel like family to me. So it's in some ways akin to me fulfilling the other part of that, my advocation, what fills me up, what fills my cup. So it doesn't feel draining. These organizations are extremely well run. I am not with an organization that is taking more of their fair share of the cup that I have to give. And so it's a labor of love, but one that I think is important for me to do relative to my position at the bank, the success that I've had, the plight around me. I can't, there's no way that I can just go to work. I have got to give back in ways that are sustaining and endearing for my community.
Wow. I think that's beautiful. And I absolutely commend you for wanting to give back, having that intrinsic desire. And then lastly, what advice do you have for high schoolers that want to get involved with finance and business?
I tell, and I just had this conversation with our interns, get in any way you can. I get the finance and banking is not for everybody, but what I do know is that there is not one business that can thrive without someone understanding finance and at least understanding the fundamentals of how you make money, where your risks are, how do you grow, what are areas for development. All of those are not just platform ideas, but funding ideas that have intrinsic value from a revenue, an expense, a cost, a return. And there is no loss in investing in yourself from a finance perspective, none whatsoever.
Wow. And that's also like the optionality that finance careers typically offer as well. That's a huge part.
Absolutely. I mean, and I tell folks in banking, you can be a poli-sci major, a finance major, and marketing major, and HR, and every one of those individuals will have a really robust career at a bank.
Yeah, okay. It interrupted for a second.
Okay.
You said they have a huge, and then it cut off after that.
Oh, I was saying that one of the from a banking perspective, you can take I don't know if you heard this part, but you can take a poli-sci major, a finance major, an econ major, marketing, a social services, and all of them would have a tremendous and robust career at a bank, because every career makes up our ecosystem. And then there's even further opportunity for you to go deep and broad relative to industry focus and different parts of financing that, I've had while it's not been all at one bank, I've been at BMO for 21 years. And I have not had a boring career trajectory.
Wow. I love that message to end off with. Thank you so much for your time. This means a lot, especially doing it again with the original technical difficulties. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
sure to like and subscribe, hit the notification bell. If you ever want to contact me about anything regarding the channel, you can contact me at themaggiewalkerproject@gmail.com. It'll also be linked in the description. So with that, I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.